We begin, though, with the latest on WestJet. The union representing its flight attendants has issued a 72-hour strike notice, meaning a strike could happen this Sunday. The company responded with a lockout notice of its own. The dispute has caught many travelers off guard.
I just want to get to the UK, and I know that the partner airlines are not on strike, so I'm not sure why it's an issue to just put us on a partner airline and solve the problems.
I've been saving for this trip for a very long time, for years. It's happening. So it's like, even if they strand us, technically what they're supposed to do is try to get us on an Air Canada flight. If I have to miss an extra day or two of work, my boss said that's fine.
Disappointed that they couldn't settle it, and then it's come as far as it has, that the staff really feel they need to strike. So, yeah, and I feel like we've already done this with Air Canada, and I thought WestJet might be a little bit more proactive and not, especially in the summer. Like, a lot of people are traveling, and it's just really unfortunate.
Okay, Anis Hadari has been following this story for us from Toronto. Anis, here we are. A lot of travelers watching right now. Where do things stand?
At this point, the company and the union are still negotiating, so it's important to note that a strike or a lockout isn't a must right now. It's not going to for sure happen, but certainly we have inched much, much closer to that possibility. Because they've given the strike notice, and then WestJet in turn responded with lockout notice, by Sunday morning at, we believe, midnight Mountain Time, so 2 a.m. Eastern Time, 11 p.m. Pacific Time, they will be able to stop working, whether it's the flight attendants themselves who say we're off the job, we're on strike, or maybe management will say you're locked out. We haven't come to a deal, so we don't want to do this anymore. We're locking you out and we're not paying you anymore. What that will mean in the days going forward is that WestJet's going to start to cancel flights at a certain point. We don't know specifically when. There's no roadmap for this that they would share with the public, of course. And we did ask WestJet for an interview. They haven't gotten back to us yet on that. But while we know that WestJet would have to cancel flights slowly leading up to that Sunday, functionally, because they don't want their planes to be stuck overseas or even in cities where they don't have a base, we don't know when they might do that. And the fact that they haven't done that yet is because there is probably still a hope that they can come to a deal. If we compare this to Air Transat, when they were negotiating with their pilots a few months ago, there was notice of strike given, notice of lockout given as well. And then they went down to the wire, and just before they could have gone on strike, they didn't. They announced a deal. There were very few flights canceled for Air Transat, although there were a few. Of course, that is not the experience that Canadians saw with the Air Canada flight attendants last year. So it could go both ways at this point. Sarah, we're just waiting for more information.
Okay, right. Well, so as you point out there's some experience as to just how things could play out here. So what are we going to be seeing happen over the next few days?
So in terms of what passengers will see, as I mentioned, they'll slowly start to see flights be canceled over the next couple of days. Really, we might see lots of flights canceled if there is some sort of blow up at the bargaining table that spills out into the public. But it is hard to know what's happening inside those closed doors. Employers and unions don't tend to negotiate in public unless things are going very, very, very badly. So right now, we just know that they are negotiating, and they might come out with a deal, they might not. So there's a lot of wait and see. What we are watching for is whether the federal government gets involved or seems to maybe want to get involved. They haven't said that they're going to yet. In fact, they've said the opposite, that they would like to see a negotiated deal. But take a listen to what a labor expert said when we talked about what happened last year with Air Canada.
We've seen the government intervene recently in these kinds of negotiations, with the Air Canada flight attendants just last summer. And as many people talked about last time, what that does is essentially alleviates the pressure for an employer to reach an agreement. We're seeing WestJet say all the right things, but, in the back of their mind, they'll have seen what happened last summer. So you have to think, if the government's going to intervene, or it's likely they will, the pressure is not there for them to make a deal.
So what this tells us is really, the government, the federal government, that is sort of like an elephant in the room, but maybe it's more like Schrodinger's elephant. Are they there or aren't they? If the federal government is going to intervene, there is less pressure on WestJet or the union to come to a deal because, well, the government's going to force something anyway. And if the government doesn't intervene, then there is pressure on them to come to a deal. The government, as I mentioned, says they are not looking to intervene right now. That could change. There has not been a labor dispute where there has been a picket line involving an airline in the last few years where the feds have not intervened, but only after they went on strike. Sarah.
Okay, Anis Hadari in Toronto. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, one of those travelers that we're talking about here, who's waiting to see how this unfolds, is Bonnie Thompson. She lives in Duncan, British Columbia. It's a city on Vancouver Island. And she plans to fly out of Victoria tomorrow to the UK. Bonnie, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you.
So you've taken some time away from, I suppose, refreshing your phone, looking for any kind of update that you might get here. Flights could start to be grounded by tomorrow, and you have that trip to London booked on WestJet. What's it going to mean to you if you click and find that it's been canceled?
What I've heard is they have hours to reschedule us on and pay for a different flight. But if that doesn't happen and it's canceled, then I'm probably going to lose out 15 to 20,000 on our Airbnbs. I have my family from Iceland was going to stay with us in London, so we have events booked, train tickets booked. We talked about this trip when I took my daughter and grandson to Iceland for Christmas 2024 to stay with family. And we said, wouldn't it be nice to go the summer of 2026? So we booked all this last year.
Wow, Bonnie, you're a planner. And that is a lot of money to have on the line. I imagine this is kind of stressful for you.
It's very stressful. I check social media like I've never checked it so much, and constantly recharging my phone, waiting for WestJet to announce something. I don't know.
I know WestJet reached out to travelers who were going to be traveling between certain days to say, hey, you can, we won't charge you anything if you want to either cancel or change your flights. Did you try that, or did you consider it?
I read all I could on that. I would still lose out on all my Airbnbs I had booked, because within 7 days there's no refund. And I also heard that if WestJet cancels our flights, they have to give you 100% refund back to your original form of payment. So people who canceled their flights would have only got a travel credit. So I'm hoping if they do cancel me, that they get me and my daughter and grandson on another flight to the UK, so we can meet up with our family and carry on with our plans.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get it. You did the math, and you realized that you were going to be out even more pocket if you tried to rebook on another airline. So, I think anyone listening, that probably makes sense. But just money aside here, given the number of family members, the planning that's gone into this, can you put a dollar figure on that? Because it feels like this is a pretty important trip you were going to be taking.
It is an important trip. Everybody's taken time off work. My grandson's going to be in university September, and then working summers, and he's always been a big part of my traveling companion. And I told him, this is our last trip because you're going to university and you'll be working and won't be able to take this time off anymore. So let's do it now.
Bonnie, do you have a feeling about one way or the other about the fact that it's gotten to this point?
I think they're going to cancel. I have checked in. I did get the notice to check in, so I did check in.
And how do you feel about the fact that that it has come to this point, that there's the lockout and the threat of strike? I guess I'm asking you, have you gotten beyond or able to think beyond what's happening to you to think like about this dispute, and it's gotten to the point that it is?
Yeah, I don't blame the flight attendants one bit. It's WestJet. They should have just followed suit with Air Canada last year and given their flight attendants what they deserve. So it's not right that they're being treated and unpaid, though, from what I've read, for services they've rendered. And it's just not right. So I blame WestJet, not the cabin crew or flight attendants.
Well, Bonnie, you are a generous grandmother. I'll say that. And I hope your bags are packed, and I hope that you refresh tomorrow and that you get on that plane. We wish you well, Bonnie Thompson. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks.